And here we go. Oh my goodness. So the time has come for me to do my famous good, bad, and ugly. And in this case, we now have Spider-Man 2. So let's start off with the good, shall we? And I think there's a significant amount of good in this game. First and foremost, the graphics. The thing looks absolutely beautiful. It is glorious to lay your eyes upon. When it comes to ray tracing, you get ray tracing no matter which option you choose. Listen to me. You get ray tracing no matter which option you choose, whether it's performance or fidelity. Ray tracing. It looks amazing. I'm telling you, in some cases, it's almost, you have to really focus in and know what you're looking for to tell the difference, because they both look equally freaking phenomenal, okay? Stunning. When it comes to fast travel. Now, I thought it was a little gimmicky when I was trying to do fast travel at first, because I was like, okay, the game is kind of moving me from the spot that I'm choosing. But then I looked a little closer, and what it does is I was trying to push myself onto a building. So if you try to go into a building, what the game will do is it'll nudge you into the street. So you fast travel always into the street, which makes sense because you want to get, to web swinging, you want to get to gliding, you want to get to perching, you want to, get there, and the animations go along with that. So fast travel, it's instantaneous, okay? It's amazing what they have done. This game is very much a tech demo of the power of the PS5. That's very much what it is in many cases. Next up on the list is going to be combat. Now, when it comes to combat, it's very reminiscent of the earlier series, of the combat. There's not a lot that they did drastically to change the combat. They added, for instance, one character, one enemy type that I thought was completely dumb were the dogs, okay, as the dogs he refers to them. But you see this in the demo that they had, the dogs that was trying to grab them. I thought this was dumb. I was like, this doesn't do anything. I come to find out later on in the game, what those dogs actually do is that they can actually inhibit you from using your symbiote abilities. Praying, bruh, it's glorious, glorious. This is exactly what I've been talking about. This is precisely what I've been talking about. Instead of giving me just, your typical enemy variations, give me characters that are specifically tailored towards the character, right? Give me enemy types that are specifically tailored towards the character I'm playing as. For Spider-Man, now we have someone who's now limiting my symbiote abilities, okay? It puts out a pulse and it stops you from using your symbiote abilities. That then forces you to put them on the priority, number one on your priority to kill list. I think that's great. This is something that I'm implementing in my game, in my combat arena, of certain enemy types that are primarily tailored towards the powers that Spider-Man has. I think that's great that they added that on. When it comes to the other enemy types, you have the knives people who will slash you with the knives and you have to parry them. One thing that I like about combat, and also to a fault, is that they allow you to tailor the combat how you, the player, wants to play. And what I mean by that is that when it comes to the enemy types with the swords, right, the knives that they have, well, guess what? You either get the option of parrying them, right, when they do their attacks, and you can parry them and then go about your attack and get a bonus that way. You can either jump and avoid the attack altogether, or in some cases, you also have the ability to, once you get there, to take their knives away. So you take their knives and you throw it right back at them. So with that one type of enemy, there's a multitude of ways to handle that enemy type, and then they leave that up to the player. I think that is great. That is more of what I want. Good job, Insomniac. You guys are actually listening, which they say they do. And every once in a while, I was like, are you guys really listening? They are listening. I think they did an excellent job on that regard. What I would have liked to have seen is more enemy variety. So one thing that I think Miles Morales did very well was that there was enemy types that were susceptible to Miles' electricity attack. That was the only way to get around their defenses. And I think that's great. I would have liked to see more of that here, where there was enemy types that were only, susceptible to symbiote abilities. Or there was only enemy types that were susceptible to Miles's electricity. That would have been a little more hard to juggle, the fact that you can go back and forth. But how you get around that is that you have enemy types that are susceptible to his electricity, as well as the symbiote or the tentacles. That's how you do it. I would have liked to see more of that. So it seems what they do in combat is that instead of doing more variety, heavy variety types, what they have chosen to do is really give you a whole bunch of enemies. So in previous games where you'll have maybe one sniper or two snipers and whatnot, and maybe 3 enemies, you'll have in this game 4 snipers and 6 enemies, okay? And then you'll have 2 brutes or 3 brutes in some cases. So they really give you hordes of enemies to handle, which is, depending on how much you like the combat, I think that's a way to go. I think that's one way to handle it. I would like to see in Spider-Man 3, obviously, way more variety types that are tailored towards Spider-Man and the powers that they've given us in the 3rd game. One additional little thing that I noticed, and the thing is, as an animator, you notice you've been trained to notice nitpicking, right? That is your job as an animator, is to nitpick. You're nitpicking frames. So one thing that I noticed I really like is the web yank. Now, for me, I didn't see any value or any use in web yanking someone left to right. I don't know. I just never used that in combat. It just seemed kind of, something they used during the demo that was like, okay, that's cool, but it didn't have any impact on me. But however, one thing they did change was the web yank to you. Now, in the first Spider-Man game, and I think even in the second Miles Morales, the web yank, it would just web yank them a little bit, right? They would just, come forward just a little bit. In this one, they come directly towards you. And I think that's great for adding in just a flow to combat. Instead of me constantly going to them, now I have a move where I can bring them to me. And I think how they manage that long distance, short distance traversal within combat is really, really well handled. And so I want to give them, kudos to them for doing that. I don't know if a lot of people notice it, but I noticed it because I hated it in Spider-Man 1 and I hated it in Miles Morales, I believe, where the web yank and they would just come a little bit. It's like, yo, no, come to me, bro. Come to me. That's where I want you to come. A small other animation that they changed, maybe I'll cover this on the animation channel, but is the web perch to punch. Now in Spider-Man 1, if you web launch to to a wall or to a fence, whatever it is, and you go and press the attack button, he'll lunge out and do an attack. I thought that was so cool. In Spider-Man 2, if you notice, what he will do is if you web launch on like a fence or a car, whatever it is, he'll, instead of punch, he'll go and do a kick and you can go into your combo. As opposed, if you web launch off of a wall, right, he then does, the punch. So I like that they tweaked that. It's little animations like that that I live for, bro. I just live for them. I love that they varied the attack combinations and the attack animations in that regard. Some people may not notice it, no difference to me. I notice things like that, and I appreciate them to the utmost degree. Another good point of the game is going to be bosses. Bosses, they have, I won't say fully revamped, but they've made it more difficult. And I think that was a big gripe about the game, that it was too easy. Regardless of the difficulty that you chose, it was like, okay, this is easy to get along, to get through these bosses and finish a game. In Spider-Man 2, and I'm playing it on my second playthrough, it's a little more difficult. In some cases, it can be very much Demon Souls, where if you're not properly upgraded, prepare to die a lot, okay? That's what I'm experiencing, where I'm like, yo, I don't have the right health upgrades. My gadgets are underutilized. They're not fully upgraded. Like, I'm going into boss fights and it's like, yo, there's nothing I can do here. I'm getting my butt kicked and it's brutal.
Okay, I'm parrying, but it's a... I'm hitting dodging. I'm dodging now, and I still can't. We've experienced. I don't know what's going on, bro. This is wild.
And I greatly appreciate dying in this game. I really do. I know that sounds weird, but I like the difficulty that you can actually achieve that difficulty where it's like, okay, you want a challenge? Well, here's a challenge for you. Or now, if you do like Spectacular, I play Spectacular without using the gadgets because I'm not a big gadgets person. You guys know that. But if you play it on Ultimate, you're gonna need the gadgets, bro. I don't know how I mean, I'm sure you can, but it would be a pain. But you're gonna need the gadgets and you're definitely gonna need to upgrade. When it comes to bosses, there's certain bosses that have 2 stages to them. This is something that I talked about before when it comes to my criticism. Here's the thing. What Insomniac does that I like is that I'll get all the flack for, all the dweebs and the coomers complaining, oh, just be happy, Lucas, just be happy. And Insomniac will listen to me, be like, you know what? He's right. We can do better. and when they finally ended up doing it, then everyone's happy. And it's just so funny. It's like, well, do I get any credit? Like, hello? I think people like me who are actually giving constructive criticism, because there are those out there that just hate the game regardless. I mean, the game could be literally a 10 out of 10 and people are like, it's a 0, it's a 1, this is horrible. Those are a different group of people. But people who actually are giving constructive criticism to say, hey, this isn't that good, but this is how it can be better. This is how I would make it better. And Insomniac listening to these people and implementing it and executing it, I think that's what makes it all the great, okay? All the much better of a game. Because you have these bosses where you do have stages. And in some cases, right, for example, the lizard, once again, not spoiler, but the second stage of the lizard, it's the same thing, okay? It just is what it is, it's the same thing. But there are other bosses where the first stage, you'll be like, okay, and the second stage, they'll do a different attack, right? Or it'll be a different environment, and you have to, see, okay, how do I, how do I maneuver around this attack? How do I counter this attack? And you have to get used to their patterns. I think that's great. One thing that they do fall, victim to, which is in some cases many bosses throughout a variety of games, is that they try to pad on the difficulty by adding in other mini bosses or other enemies along with the main boss. I don't think that's necessary if you have a strong enough boss, but they do that sometimes throughout the game. There's a lot more that can be done to refine, some of the bosses, the patterns, what they do, how you defeat them, because there is a certain familiarity with all the bosses, which is, punch, 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 dodge. Where I think they could change that pattern up a bit, where maybe you use the environment to stop the boss, or maybe use their own weapons against them to stop them, or something similar to that point. There is a boss like that where you can do that. I'm not going to spoil it, but I think it's good. It's good what they've done in 2. I will give them credit for that. It is good. This now leads us to the next good, and that is the stealth. There are people, having said that, there are people who don't like the stealth in Spider-Man, and in Spider-Man 2. And the reason why is because of the gadget where now you can shoot extra web lines. I love that, okay? I think that's the best thing ever. I think that's great. I think it changes as far as the stealth to the benefit of the player. That's what I'm like, this is all about me. It's about the player. And I think for people who think it breaks stealth, here's my option for you. Don't use them. That's correct. It's that simple. If you don't like that you can shoot web lines anywhere, okay, then don't use it. You're not forced to use it. There's nothing in the game that forces you to use the stealth web lines to take out multiple people. There's nothing there. It's your gameplay. And that's, once again, a kudos to Insomniac for allowing the player to customize their experience. If you want to use 6 and 5 web lines and take out everyone there stealthily, you can do that. If you don't want to use that, you don't have to. You can use whatever, the perches that they have, the beams and stuff that they have in the level as is. You don't have to add any more web lines if you don't want. You can make that challenge up to you. That is the beauty. The challenge is up to you. If you want to challenge yourself, just as I did by not using gadgets or whatnot, or if you want to challenge yourself by not using the web lines and taking enemies down, then you can do that. There's nothing that's forcing you to do that. So I think people who are criticizing that, I think it's an invalid criticism, okay? Because no one forcing you to do that. I understand if there was missions where I have to use it, where the game was like, hey, we're not gonna progress any further until you shoot a web line here, 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 here. But that's not how the game does. The game is like, hey, this is available to you. If you want to use it, cool. If you don't want to use it, that's cool too. In addition to that, the AI, one thing that I noticed when I was playing is that the AI will actually look up. They're like, hey, you know, they'll search up where the enemy attack was. And I think that's great. I think that's awesome because it adds that extra level of difficulty where you just can't be doing some wild stuff and not have people be like, okay, Spider-Man is here. He's not where I see him, so he has to be above us. I think that's great. Good job, because it was awesome. This now leads us to web swinging. And I know I have been, I would say, the main proponent of the criticism regarding web swinging and regarding the game entirely. But I think my criticism has been, fair and balanced, and I've always given ways as far as how to solve the criticism I have. I've always added solutions to the criticisms I have. I think that's very important. I think that separates, some of my criticisms versus people who just want to take a dump on the game. Every time I criticize, I aim to improve it, and I give certain solutions as to how I would go about that. Whether people agree, that's a different story. But when it comes to web swinging, I will say this is the best web swinging we have to date, okay? And I made sure, okay, I double checked, because when I say stuff like that, I always want to just double check to reassure myself. So I went and played Spider-Man 2 on the PS2, and then, was playing Spider-Man 2 on the PS5, just to double check what was good, what was bad, what felt better. And I have to say, this web swinging is top notch. It's top notch. And one of the reasons that it's top notch is that, once again, it allows you to customize. I think that is just awesome, because I went into the steer assist, which is what it does, steer assist. But in addition to that, okay, that I didn't notice when I'd gotten, my copy of the game, the early copy, because there were so many leaks coming out, and I was trying to rush the story because I wasn't doing side missions. I was just trying to rush the story because I didn't want the leaks to come out and spoil everything for me. And then I stopped. I was like, you know what? I don't want to play like that. So I waited, till the game launched, got my copy, and it was like, okay, let me actually enjoy this game instead of trying to rush it out and get a review when, the embargo lifts. So I go into the options. There's a lot of options. One of the options I didn't understand was the web bending. Now, at first I thought the web bending was for the web line because it's under web swinging option, but that's not what it's for. It's actually for the stealth mechanic of shooting the web lines where it bends versus where it's being straight. I don't know if that impacts the gameplay, to what extent. I don't know. I've tried it out. I didn't notice any difference. But nevertheless, when it comes to swinging assist, I think probably the best option is going to be number one. Because I tried 0. I played the first time with 0, and we obviously know what 10 is. And I tried the gradations in between. And one of the things, if you look at Spider-Man 2, in Spider-Man 2, if you swing, not Spider-Man 2 for the PS5, but Spider-Man 2 for the PS2, if you swing, right, obviously it goes towards the building because that's how the physics are. But it's a little more, malleable as far as how far you go over to the right or how far you go over to the left. And then you couple that with the boost that gives you a false sense of momentum. Now, after playing that and then going back to Spider-Man 2 on the PS5, I will say that Spider-Man 2 on the PS5 is more realistic than Spider-Man 2 on the PS2. Now, whether or not you find that more fun, less fun, that's up to you. But I went in Spider-Man 2 for the PS5, and there is no boost mechanic. The only way you get speed is through momentum, right? And you either get momentum either through diving or through natural progression of your web swinging, of releasing it at the right time and combining that with your web wings. So I will say that Spider-Man 2 for the PS5 is absolutely a phenomenal experience. And the reason why I say as far as steer assist as 1 as opposed to 0 is because the web swinging, and they changed the web swinging. I don't know if people understand this or even notice it, but from 1 to Miles Morales to now, the web swinging in and of itself is different. And the reason why is that they actually animated the tension of the web line. So what I mean by that is if you look at Spider-Man 1, it's fairly consistent when it comes to the pendulum, right? There's not that big of a dip when it comes to the pendulum. If you contrast that with Spider-Man 2 for the PS5, what it does is actually more of a realistic pendulum. Whereas there's little weight on the beginning half, but once you start getting down and gravity, where gravity impacts you the hardest, is that pull on the web, is that web stretches like a rubber band. Because of that stretch, if you have it to 0, you're gonna hit the ground. You're gonna hit the ground, you're gonna hit the cars, which makes it very hard to constantly, consistently get low to the ground. What you can do, you can get low, but you have to shoot your web line hot, because once it hits the weight of the web line, it stretches. And depending on how far it stretches, you are gonna hit the ground. If you go high enough, you won't hit the ground and you'll glide over the cars. That was awesome. Next up with the great is the slingshot. Bruh, we can slingshot from anywhere. Now, unlike other games where they have slingshot, there were certain moments, even in Spider-Man 3, you can slingshot, but you had to go to a certain area to slingshot. In TASM 2, I believe, you can slingshot while swinging, right, from anywhere, but it was extremely limited how far you went. In this game, you can slingshot from anywhere. Now, you can't do it while you're swinging, which hopefully they add into Spider-Man 3. But in this, you can slingshot from anywhere, from a light post. You're on a lamp post, slingshot. You're on the ground, slingshot. You're on a building, slingshot. In addition to that, they have super slingshots where they're designated areas that'll shoot you across the map. So I'm like, that's freaking awesome. They've taken a mechanic that's been used before and made it better. Okay, that's what I'm talking about, innovation. Innovation is not necessarily, reinventing the wheel, but taking maybe in some cases a mechanic and making it better. Okay, enhancing it to a certain level of quality where it's almost unrecognizable, or it's night and day from its original iteration. And I think they did that, and they did that successfully. Next up on the list, I know this is a long list, but there's a lot of good in the game, and I have to give credit where credit's due. Web wings. Web wings are a mechanic that we have asked or been asking since day one. They actually prototyped it in the first game, but they're like, we need some time to actually work out the kinks. Well, they worked out the kinks, and the web wings are honestly the highlight of the game. They're great. The air tunnel, right? You can travel through the city, and you can leave anytime you want. The fact that they made it, you can go any direction in the air tunnel. I think that's great, because I'm thinking that could have been something that easily was missed. Whereas you can only go in one way, and then there's another air tunnel where you can go the other way. The fact that you can go in, if you go in left and you go in the air tunnel, it'll take you left. If you're going right and you go in the air tunnel, it'll take you right. I think, I don't think a lot of people are really giving credit for that. I think that's genius, to be honest with you. In addition to the vertical ones where I actually give you an air boost, it's amazing. I would say in some cases, I may put this in bad, but in some cases, it's better than the web swing. Because it's like, it's so good. It's like, why would I web swing? to be honest with you, why would I web swing when I can get to point A to point B in a fraction of the time thanks to the air tunnel and just thanks to the maneuverability of the wings? Web wings are awesome. And what it does, it solves the problem of the web swing. Because when you're web swinging, you go up in the air. Yeah, you're up in the air. But if you remember in Spider-Man 1, there really wasn't, you could do, tricks and stuff, but the tricks were limited. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to be doing tricks until I get down to something that I can swing off of. Well, now, as you're up in the air, you can immediately go poof, and go in the web wings as you descend and then go back into web swinging. I think that game loop is, wow, It's beautiful. It's great. It's awesome. I love it. Please keep it forever. In addition to that, we have the MJ missions. MJ missions I absolutely despise. Let me just tell you, I hate the MJ missions. In Spider-Man 1, I hate them. They're detestable. They're sickening. I want to quit the game every single time they come up. In Spider-Man 2, however, they're fun. I know. I hate them, but in Spider-Man 2, they are fun. They're tolerable, we'll say. They are fun. The reason why they are fun in this game is because they're fast-paced. Unlike in Spider-Man 1, where there's a lot of waiting, and timing it out. It's like, okay, let me throw this, wait for them to respond. Another reason why it works, because it's similar to the rage mode in the game, where you can one-shot enemies. Now, I would also put this in the bad category, but at the same time, any way to improve the MJ missions is a win. Where you can go up to somebody, shock them, move to another person, shock them. If they see you, you don't automatically, it's game over. You can still take a hit in some cases and shock them. On higher difficulty levels, you can't, you can't be seen. But that's still that flow of bam, bam, that fast-paced combat or that fast-paced gameplay, which you've just, been playing with Spider-Man, transitions and flows very nicely with the MJ missions. I am not a big fan of MJ missions at all, but I think the improvements that they made need to be brought up and presented in the good category. The last thing on the list is going to be gadgets. Now, I understand this is a very precarious topic to address, but when it comes to gadgets for me, like I said, I'm not a big gadgets fan. Spider-Man himself is not a big gadgets person besides his web shooters. So when they had 8 gadgets in Spider-Man 1 and the wheel, I wasn't a big fan of it. I didn't really use them at all because I didn't feel the need to. And secondly, the difficulty, there wasn't a need to anyway. So if you look at Spider-Man 2 PS5, I personally think this is a good aspect. I think they've limited the gadgets to now 5 gadgets, and you can quick shortcut them with only 4 gadgets, 4 wheels. So you can do R1 and triangle, R1 and square, RX and circle. You get it. I like that, and I think the gadgets, they've added new gadgets, but I believe some of the other old gadgets come along with them. I don't recall 100%, but I like that. I think the gadgets fulfill a role that you don't experience with the powers that you have. I think all the gadgets complement the mechanics of the combat. I think that's great. I think a lot of the gadgets before were just there to be there. Once again, one gadget I do miss is the little the one that grabs you and then sticks you to the wall. I think that's cool. Okay, I thought that was a cool gadget. It's kind of sad that it wasn't there, but I like that they've limited the gadget. It seems a lot more focused. Having said that, this is the part where all the fanboys, all the the betas, the incels, the coomers, this is the part where you guys step away, okay? I'm just letting you know. This is the part where if you like the good, all right, this is where you leave, because we're about to get into the bad. That is correct. I know with every game there's going to be bad. And in this game, the bad, I have to say, start off with the combat. I gave the combat praise and the good, but there was one thing that irritated me in the combat. And one thing that was the perfect dodge. In Spider-Man 1 and even in Miles Morales, if you were to do a perfect dodge towards someone who was shooting at you, you would get an instant takedown. And it was so rewarding. And the reason why that's such a bad in this game is because of the reasons I said the good was, which is they doubled the amount of enemies. So where in Spider-Man 1, where you may have one sniper shooting at you or one guy shooting at you, in this game, you have 3 or 4 lines on you at any given moment. You have a guy shooting at you, you have 2 snipers, you have the people who are shooting the nets at you, so you have a whole bunch of long-range attacks coming at you, and you have no way to go about it other than to, to web them up. And if they're moving so fast, you can't web them up because they also have different combats where they limit you from being in the sky. So it's things like that where it's like, okay, what do I do? So when you have all these long-range attacks coming at you, I think of one thing that would have been nice in flow with the combat would have been that, to reward you for the perfect dodge, because what you get right now is just a web. Well, why am I going to get a reward of a web when I could have done that myself? I could have just webbed them up, right? So I think by having that instant kill with the perfect dodge, I think that benefits for long range attacks, for long range enemies who are using, their weapons. I think that would have been sublime, but they took it out for some reason, and it's very frustrating, especially at higher difficulties. The next bad is going to be the story. I'm sorry, I don't care what you have to say. This story is garbage. The story is trash, okay? Start off with Kraven. I'm not gonna get into spoilers. Kraven is pointless. He is nothing more than a device to move the plot along. That's it. His whole motive is 2D. That's what he is. He's a 2D character. Oh, my next hunt. And it's like, what? What do you, like, that's it? That's the only reason you're here. Yes, my next hunt. That's it, bro. Like, what? You not teaming up with anybody? There's nothing else. And I think Kraven has been completely underutilized in this story to the point where we didn't need him to be here, honestly. We could have taken him out within like the first half of the game. That's it. We didn't need him there. Yes, I'm irritated with Kraven. The next thing I have to say is Mary Jane. I'm sorry. Whoever is writing Mary Jane, I don't know which one of the writers, but she is not likable in this game at all. There's a moment, not to get into spoiler territory, but she does something to Peter, and it's like, you knew that wasn't him who was doing all of that, right? You knew that wasn't him, and despite that, you still put out this, you still did this to harm him. And I'm just like, why? You are just the worst type of girlfriend ever, like ever. In addition to that, her whole attitude. You have moments where Peter is like professing his love to her. He's like, hey, you're the best, you're the best. And she's like, yeah, I know. Okay, cool, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, what? What is this? I'm sick and tired of Peter. He comes off as being nerfed. His powers seem to be extremely nerfed, and it seems that they do that in order to shine light to Mary Jane and to shine light to Miles, because they have to balance it. So the only way to balance this is, well, he's out of order right now. And it's just inconsistent from what we've seen in Spider-Man 1, where this fool took on the Sinister Six by himself. And now you want to tell me this is what caused him to be hurt? And I'm not going to get, like I said, I'm not getting into spoiler territory, but the story is garbage, bruh. Absolute trash. And then we get into the whole symbiote, right? The whole symbiote. I'm just like, if I wanted Web of Shadows, I would have played Web of Shadows. I didn't buy Spider-Man 2 PS5 to give me a spin-off of Web of Shadows. That's not what I bought it for. I wanted something new. I wanted something fresh, because this is your Venom. I know the story of Venom. I know how it is in the comics. I know how it is in the movies. I know how it is in previous games. What are you going to do that's different from the others? And it seems they go down the same trites, the same, just stereotypes. And it's just like, it's nothing new here. And it's very, very irritating, because if they had gotten this story right, if they had really made this story great, this would have been truly a masterpiece of a game. It really would have been just something, wow, this was awesome. But because the story falls flat on so many ways, so many angles, I mean, I'll do a spoiler video, but it falls flat time and time and time again, where it's like, what? What? Come on. Really? It's just, I didn't get any excitement out of it. Harry, I don't know Harry. And the way they go about trying to make this connection with Harry was dumb. The best moments of Harry, and I can't get into it, but there's certain activities that you do with Harry that are more fun than you going to the carnival rides. That is horrible. And speaking of horrible, one of the worst things, another bad about this game, are these walkie-talkie moments. Please, for the love of God, Sony, stop doing these walkie-talkie segments. I don't know where this came from. I don't know who started it, but this trend has got to stop. This is painful. It is actually causing physical pain to me playing this, all right? And if there's a way that I could skip it, I would. But you force me to play these walkie-talk segments in order to progress in the game. That is not fair. You have got to either figure out another way to go about this or skip them entirely altogether. They're not fun. Me delivering, being a caterer to people is not fun. Me riding a bicycle is not fun. Me walking around without any powers in a school or whatever is not fun. This is not how you do it. And every single time they try to do this to give some exposition. And it's like, hey, don't tell me, show me. Okay? That's what you need to do. And I'm sick and tired of these just where I'm walking. They did this in God of War, where it's like the segment with Atreus and the girl, it's like, Lord, I don't even want to do another playthrough of that because I'm fearing that level. And it's the same thing here. Even though it's in the beginning of the game, I'm like, it doesn't benefit me. It doesn't benefit me at all. It irritates me. I don't want to go to a carnival and play games and be like, oh, look, it's me, MJ, and Harry. We're bestie buddies. No, that's not how you do that. That's not how you relay a stronger connection with Harry. I think you do it very well, a little more in the game, right? I'm not going to spoil it, but I think you do it very well there where it's more engaging and you get to say, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Whereas this is like Life is Strange stuff, okay? And if I wanted to play Life is Strange, I would play it, all right? But I don't. I want to play Spider-Man. So you've got to figure out a way to build a bond with a character that we don't know, in this case, Harry, without this mundane and boring gameplay. And it's not even gameplay. I'm just pushing the stick forward. That's it. In many cases, there is nothing there. There's nothing engaging about these sequences. They've got to die. They're destroying PlayStation games. Another bad is Perma Deaths. I'm not going to spoil who, but there are Perma Deaths in this game. Why? Tell me why. Why would you have Perma Deaths, especially with the individuals that you have in this game? Why? It makes no sense. And I fear for the worst, because what it feels like is that they're trying to slowly switch into another Spider-Man. And I'm like, yo, the only Spider-Man story that we have is really Spider-Man 1, because in Spider-Man 2, it's Spider-Man and friends. And I'm like, okay, if that's what you want to do, and I get it, this is Insomniac Spider-Man, their universe, and they can do anything they want with it to an extent, you know, if Marvel allows them and Sony allows them, but it's just like, all right, I guess, I don't know why you would have these characters have permadeaths, because we've only experienced them like, you know, one time. You know, these are characters that can be used again throughout throughout future tellings of the story or DLC. It's just like, why are you doing this? The next issue with this game, which is really bad, I can honestly put this in ugly. Honestly, generally, I may even put this in ugly. I'm not saying it in bad, but this is part of the ugly. And the ugly is the symbiote. When I'm talking about the symbiote, you get one main story mission with the symbiote before it's gone. I kid you not. Because they made you to believe, and this isn't a spoiler, but there is the suit, which they call it the black suit. Now, the black suit isn't the symbiote suit. So you spend this time in the black suit, and then when you finally get the symbiote suit, you have one story mission, and that's it. That's all you experience in the symbiote suit. And I'm just like, what WTF? What are you guys doing? Can you tell me what you're doing? Because I have no idea. On top of that is that there's no real difference between the symbiote suit and the red suit. Listen what I'm saying, because I know people are going to say, well, Lucas, you get the superpowers and stuff like that. I get that. The only time when the combat switches up is during rage mode. That's the only time it switches up. Everything else is the same. This is where, if you're going to piggyback off of Web of Shadows' story, then at least piggyback off of what they did good with the symbiote, okay? The fact that I had to do Starfield, okay, and go into load a title screen or whatever to load up the symbiote suit is unacceptable, okay? That's unacceptable. I should not have to go into a start menu, into a menu to click the suit, the symbiote suit, and now I get to be the symbiote suit. And that's another issue, is that it feels like a cosmetic. It doesn't actually feel like a new breathing, living character, where it felt like that in Web of Shadows. There are no differences to the idle animations. There are no difference to the combat. There are no difference to the finishers. If you're playing as the black suit or even the symbiote suit when you get it, the finishers, every like once in a blue moon, you may get a symbiote finisher, because all of the finishers are tied to the rage mode. Outside of rage mode, it's just a cosmetic. You're just wearing a black suit. And I'm just like, this is not good. This is not the best way to represent the symbiote suit when it's been done 10 times better in Web of Shadows. Next up would be as far as in regards to combat. I mentioned combat early on, but I'm going to have to mention it again because they have dual takedowns in stealth, but that's not seen in combat. And I'm like, how do you have dual takedowns in stealth, but we don't have dual takedowns in combat? All of the finishers that you do, you can't do on more than one person. And I'm just like, how did they overlook that? I can take down 2 people in stealth, but I can't take down 2 people during combat, or at least with the symbiote suit. You're telling me during the symbiote suit, I can't take down 2 people with a finisher? Now, I understand you can smash 2 people or more than 2 people. I think it's up to 6 with the symbiote power, but that's not a finisher. They'll get up after you smash them down to the ground. The finishers are it's a one-hit kill. Once their health gets low enough, you do a finisher, and it's a cool little animation. But you can only do it once not once. You can only do it to one person. I'm just like, why can't I do it to 2 people? Why can't I have a 3-hit finisher? I'm just like, come on now, y'all gotta fix that. And I'm sure they'll fix that in the 3rd game. I'm sure they will. The next bad is, you know what? It's 2023, okay? The moment in time where I can instantly go to a whole different spot on the map, miles and miles away, in a second, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that we could get a night and day cycle, all right? I think that's possible, okay? I think if we can, web wings and you've enhanced the speed of the web swinging and all that, I think we could get an actual night and day cycle. The fact that we don't have a night and day cycle, and this is the 3rd game, all right? Because we have Spider-Man 1, Miles Morales, and now Spider-Man 2. That is unfreaking acceptable. It's unacceptable that we don't have night and day cycle. And I would add this into the ugly, to be honest with you, because the ugly of this is that we don't even have an option to change the weather. How do we had that option in Spider-Man 1. How do we no longer have that option in Spider-Man 2? That is ugly. I know I'm not in the ugly section, okay? I'm leaking over, but this is ugly. We don't even have that, all right? We don't even have the option to change the weather. That's unacceptable, unacceptable. The next ugly are going to be the side missions. Listen, I don't want to chase cars anymore. Simple as that. I know they tried to dumb it down, where it's only, hey, once you get on the car, you press one button, and then, that's it. You just watch the animation. I don't want to do that anymore. You got to figure this out, okay? I know that you've added where you now can swing someone to a hospital. Yeah, I did that in Web of Shadows. Just how you enhanced the slingshot mechanic, you failed to do that in this regard, right? I don't understand this. Like, this is unacceptable, okay? This is unacceptable. We still are doing the same dull and mundane side missions. And it's like those crimes, those activities, that's really what makes the replayability, fun. That's what makes me want to turn it on, besides obviously the web swing and stuff like that. But if I wanted to have a traversal game, I'd just get a traversal game. But the reason why we have Spider-Man is that because, I get to fight crime. But if the crime isn't really fun, then it limits my replayability. It limits the value of the game. And they've got to innovate on that regard. They've got to do something with that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we get to the ugly. And there is some ugly. I know you may think there is no ugly, but best believe this game has some ugly. All right. And I talked about the ugly a little bit in the bad. When it comes to the ugly, one thing that I think is honestly, it's telling of the gaming industry. It's telling of the reviewers out there. And that is, I've looked at countless reviews of this game, and not once, not a single damn time did I hear a reviewer tell me this game has bugs. Not once. Everyone was saying this is the greatest Spider-Man game ever. Oh, it's perfect, it's flawless, it's amazing, yada, yada, yada. I didn't hear not one reviewer tell me this game has bugs. And I think that is disgusting. I think that's evil. I think that's wicked. Because you're hyping people up for an experience that's not the real experience. This game is buggy hell, okay? And I'm not talking about like, because if you've ever done playtesting, you understand there's tiers to the bugs. There are game-breaking bugs which need to be addressed immediately, and there's less, there's less serious or critical bugs where it's like, we can still ship with that, right? We can ship with a bug like that. It's not game-breaking. There are game-breaking bugs in this game, okay? I defy you to play the game without experiencing any bugs. This is beyond unacceptable. I know I've used that word countless times, but it needs to be said. This is a no-no. This is disgusting. This is the first time I've experienced this amount of bugs, such copious bugs in an Insomniac game. I didn't have this in any of the Ratchet and Clank games. I didn't have this in Miles Morales, and I sure as hell didn't have this in Spider-Man 1. I don't know what the hell was going on. Maybe they were rushing this game, which would make sense given the story. But this is unfreaking acceptable. A whole bunch of bugs where I'm turning into a cube. The game is crashing. There was one point where I got a superpower and it was telling me to hit the button for the superpower. I hit it and nothing happened. The game froze. I had to restart it. There was so many bugs like that. It was like the game glitching where it's during cutscenes and the game it glitches and I don't get to see the animation. It's like, what the hell? Whole bunch of bugs that are ugly and game breaking. Unfreaking acceptable from a first party exclusive AAA game. There's no excuses, bro. No excuses. And for anyone who says, well, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, you just have to do this. You need to take le coq out of your mouth because no, this is not excusable. The last ugly on my list, and that will be Venom. That is correct. Hear me out. Hear me out. Venom was freaking amazing. His design was freaking amazing. The gameplay of fighting him or whatnot, freaking amazing. I loved everything about Venom. The reason why Venom is in the ugly is because there was not enough of Venom. I know they wanted to talk about 19 inches of Venom. Nobody told me there would also be 19 minutes of Venom because that's what it felt like. You had all this time fleshing out the Lizard. You had Mary Jane missions. You had these backflashes. You had Kraven. And then you wait for the last 5% of the game to give me Venom. Unfreaking acceptable.
Unacceptable!
Why did they have us thinking that we were going to be fighting in the middle of the street and stuff? Why did they have us thinking that we were going to be out in broad daylight fighting Venom in the street and he was going to be throwing us against cars? That is called, I would say that's called false advertising, or at least at the bare minimum, misleading. Because when we do fight him, none of that happens. None of it. And it's only for a fraction of a second, and it's resolved. That's it. And I'm just like, bruh, how'd you, it made me so livid that during my second playthrough, I was getting upset. Because I'm like, we could have ended the Lizard segment like 15 minutes ago. We could have stopped doing Mary Jane missions and just had one. I'm just thinking of ways where they could have removed some of the padding, because we could remove we could remove Kraven and his bullcrap, the hunt. Listen, Kraven doesn't even hunt. You want to know what the ugly is? It's not even bad, it's ugly. This man talking about hunting, and I never even see him during the hunt, bro. You want to know what I see? I see his foot soldiers. And the excuse they give is, oh, you're not worth his time. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? I'm not worth his time. Every person that he's gotten, he didn't hunt himself. His minions did that. And then I guess he comes and like, okay, now fight me one-on-one. That's bullcrap, bro. He's not even a hunter, bro. He's not a hunter, bro, at all. He doesn't do any hunting. We never see him hunt. It's painful. It's really painful. And that is the ugliest thing about this game is what they do with Venom. It honestly feels like a bait and switch. Because I'm thinking we're going to have a full segment of Venom and we don't see him until like the last 5% of the game. And it's just like, what? What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, why are you hiding the lead? You don't bury the lead, and that's what it felt like. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think. Whether or not you believe, Lucas, there is no bad or ugly. The game is perfect. It's flawless. It's a masterpiece, okay? You're just a hater. Or if you have believed, you know what? That's fair. There is some bad, there is some ugly, but there's definitely some good on the table. If you happen to disagree with the video, you're more than welcome to call in during disagreement days, or typically held Friday through Sunday. There'll be a number on screen. You call in, we duke it out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe. Oh, that fun stuff. And until next time, guys, be amazing. Honestly, generally, I may even put this in ugly.